too. So obviously major security concerns down here at our southern border, especially with what's happening in Israel right now. Brett, we'll send it back to you.
Those numbers are staggering. The numbers especially
historically and geographically and politically and in every way. And then when you really break it down and look at the facts of it, it doesn't add up.
Which ones?
Well, the whole thing doesn't add up. So you have to go, what is this really, and who benefits from this?
Before we get started, I want you to know this right here is going to be the first of 2 takes on this topic, because if I decide to roll all this up into one video, it would just be too long. So here's what's going to happen. This entire situation that's going on in Israel, the Middle East, has got a lot of people out there with a lot of very bad takes. And of course, you guys just saw something that came from Fox News that was released earlier today about the migrant situation. And of course, you also saw a little bit from the Patrick Bet David podcast where Roseanne Barr was on, simply asking the question, who benefits from this? Now, I will be leaving the video that I released on Tuesday in the description box. Of course, I'm making these videos on Tuesday night. I'll be releasing them tomorrow. Video number 2 will be about the little scuffle that's going on between Ben Shapiro and Andrew Tate. And of course, we got to ask the question, is everybody out there just good old-fashioned phony tough? But before we get started talking about the Israeli incident, of course, with Gaza, I want to go ahead and give you guys some brief information. Number one, the federal government is trying to freeze the $6 billion that was given to Iran, which was obviously used to finance this entire ordeal. And of course, once again, if you're somebody who is looking at this situation, you see a president right now that is extremely weak, very feeble, and of course, to go on top of this, I would say is guilty of gross dereliction of duty. We also have a fleet headed towards Israel right now. Of course, somebody texted me earlier and told me that planes were going to Israel. And of course, I went back and looked at it, and that's not exactly the case. What's really going on is that we're sending a fleet. And if you send a fleet, obviously aircraft carrier or maybe 2 carriers are going to go. So therefore, you're obviously going to get your planes right there. So with that there out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some of these takes. Number one, I want to respond to this tweet by Jake Shields, who was a little bit upset about the fact that Israelis or the IDF decided that they want to strip down any Palestinians that they got a hold of. Well, I can explain that one very easily. If you've ever talked to an Iraqi war veteran or a veteran of Afghanistan, anybody who's ever been in the Middle East, then you would know that obviously there's a precaution here. And of course, that precaution is that these people are known to, let's just say, strap themselves with bombs. Of course, these people I'm talking about are the people in Gaza and, of course, all throughout the Middle East who love to. And by the way, I'm not making this video to insult a particular ethnic group or anything. I want YouTube to know that, and I want you to know this now. I know a lot of people of a lot of different races and a lot of different ethnicities. You get to know people, you talk to them, you find out a lot of things that, quite frankly, you would not have found out before. So I think I just want to go ahead and get that out of the way now. However, the radical members, they oftentimes have this thing about strapping themselves with a bomb and running at you. I'm pretty sure if you ever saw the movie American Sniper, you saw the very, very beginning of the film, which I understand it's a movie, but of course I need to go ahead and let people know that these people do in fact do stuff like that. They use children as human shields. They use women as human shields. They'll give a child a bomb and throw him out there against one of the U.S. personnel troops that was over there in Iraq at the time to try to blow him up. This is just how these people are. They believe if they die in combat that they go to heaven automatically, which of course they don't. They end up just going to hell like any other godless heathen, no pun intended. But then when you take a look at the situation, you look at all the things that have happened, one of the things that they are known for is, let's just say, strapping an IED to a dead body. Sometimes shoving it up the rectal cavity. I don't mean to get too graphic, but it is what it is. So obviously there is a reason why it is that you would, in fact, strip these prisoners. If Jake Shields had actually talked to an OIF or OEF vet, he would know this, but then again, those dumbasses are all over the place. The tweet that was sent out by Keith Woods. Keith Woods is a guy that I like, but I don't think Keith Woods is he could be correct on this take with the police being there instead of it actually being the Israeli military, but there's a thing that I think a lot of people are forgetting. Everybody in Israel, every Israelite, has to pull time in the military. And of course, that also includes the police department. I'll give you a great example of what I mean. There's obviously somebody here on this platform. I don't mean to invoke his name, but I'm showing you a picture of him right now. Granted, it's not exactly a flattering picture, but it was taken so perfectly that I had to include the picture. And of course, that person is Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein's wife, Hila, he met her in Israel. She served in the Israeli Defense Forces. Everybody in Israel's got to serve in the military. Of course, we talked about gun control in the previous video and how it is that Israel has suddenly decided to suspend their gun control and give everybody a rifle, which, by the way, should kill the argument for everybody out there who wants to argue for gun control, but I'm pretty sure that right there will be coming up. Of course, gun control will be a major topic, and of course, to go on top of that, also race wars will come back next year. It's a presidential election. It always happens around that time. Of course, Mia Khalifa, she lost her job as well, thank God. Yeah, I got to say this really quick before I go any further to the people who are actually protesting on the side of Palestine. You know, the ones who hold up the sign saying stuff like "Queers for Palestine," Mia Khalifa, of course, who used to do porn wearing a hijab. You're not exactly what we call popular over there, so you might want to stop, or you might want to think before you decide to simp for a certain side in this fight. Now, a lot of people, of course, want to bring up the history of the entire area, the history of the region, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. One force attacked another force, attacked a group of people, attacked an entire nation, went after civilians, and of course, the other side is going to retaliate. I discussed that in the previous video. I don't mind rehashing this again, but we got to talk about who exactly benefits from this entire situation. Well, let me go ahead and tell you right now one party that does, in fact, benefit from this situation. That country is called China. You see, China right now is looking to go into Taiwan, and Taiwan is set to have a round of elections sometime next year. If you've got a weak, feeble-bodied president in office who, by the way, has got ties to China, chances are they'll probably think that they might get a free pass should they choose to invade that land, even though I personally don't think that China has got a military that's actually ready to go. Yes, it's a very, very big military, but the Blue Water Navy that they're building is being built rather cheap, and to go on top of that, this is a country that, quite frankly, has never won a war. As a matter of fact, they lost their own civil war. They haven't been, let's just say, successful when it comes to the field of battle. And Taiwan, even though it's a small country, it's a very, very mountainous country, is not exactly going to be an easy country to take, especially if everybody in Taiwan is armed. Once again, another argument for the Second Amendment, another argument against gun control. Thing I did not think about, and I did not think about this in the last video, and I'm glad I kind of caught it. It's one of the main reasons why it is I wanted to do a follow-up on this. And like I said, the 2 videos that I'm doing on this topic will be the final 2 videos that I do on this for a while, because obviously I want to see how things eventually turn out. The thing that I wanted to bring up was the immigration problem. You see, we've got this immigration crisis going on here in the United States, and of course, a lot of people are being sent to these very, very large cities. Of course, you guys have seen my immigration videos. I'll try to link some in the description box, and of course, a lot of people there are blaming Governor Greg Abbott for sending these people from the southern border to New York and Chicago and all the big cities. Well, that's the thing. As I've said on several occasions, you can't blame Greg Abbott, because Greg Abbott could have been stopped a long time ago from doing this. Your current president, Joe Biden, is the one who could have put his foot down. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alexander Mayorkas, he could have put an end to this a long time ago as well by just simply putting his foot down and ordering Texas to cease. But that's obviously not in the plan. The plan, of course, is obviously to replace a certain ethnicity, which, quite frankly, if I mention it here online by name, oh, screw it, I wouldn't say it. They're trying to replace the black people in the area. That right there is what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring in a whole brand new group of voters, trying to silence your voice. I've been saying this for a while. You should have stopped voting Democrat a long time ago when you figured out that your abortion rate was through the roof and that the black-on-black murder rate was through the roof. You got to understand at this point in time that you're actually being cut off from being able to procreate. That right there is a problem. So what they're doing is they're replacing you. They're hopefully willing to get these Venezuelans and, of course, the people that they're importing from across the border to replace you. This right here is obviously what the hell is going on here. But the more and more I look at it, the more and more I actually sit down and think about it and see that these people that are coming over can't be tracked. And of course, I'll give you guys my thoughts at the end of this, but make sure you guys pay very, very close attention to what I'm about to show you.
Telling us they've got extreme concerns about who is crossing our southern border, primarily because so many agents have been pulled off the front lines to instead focus on processing, and that then leaves gaps in our border where we simply have nobody out on patrol, and the numbers are startling. We'll start with the terror watch list numbers. Fiscal year 2023 so far, 151 people on the FBI's terror watch list have been arrested by Border Patrol agents while they were crossing illegally here at our southern border. That is the the highest number on record. It's also higher than the previous 6 years combined.
I want you to think about something really quick. Let's just say that Israel, destroys Gaza. Let's just say that, which, by the way, they're leveling Gaza right now. Let's say Israel completely destroys Gaza. And Egypt, who, by the way, claims that they gave Israel a heads up, and Israel, of course, is denying this. I don't really know a whole lot about that yet. Of course, you'll hear this in the Roseanne Barr section here in a second, because Patrick Bet-David brought up some very, very good points. Security in Israel is extremely, extremely tight. Like, they know who you are. They ain't even got to really and truly look at your passport. Sometimes they know the actual background of you if you go there. They know what a terrorist is, and they know what a terrorist is not. What I'm saying to you is that Israeli intelligence is extremely good. It's about as good as ours. But then again, there are intel departments. They oftentimes love to fail us too. So it could have been that situation there. I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. I'm just leaving it up as a possibility. So that way I don't just come off like some stone cold jerk. But still, at the same time, we got to ask the question. So what's the overall end game here? Well, if I recall correctly, back in the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton was running on increasing overall immigration by about 500%. A lot of Syrian refugees were brought in with a lot of people across the border, and people began to start raising their eyebrows right away. They started thinking to themselves, maybe we're going to be overtaken. Maybe we're bringing in people from war-torn countries. If you recall correctly, former President Trump was out there saying what? A Muslim ban needs to be put in place. Of course, he probably should have worded it better. He probably should have said people from war-torn countries ban should not be allowed to enter at this moment in time. And there was even some people who live here in the United States who are Muslims who, quite frankly, even agreed with him. It wasn't that many, but of course they agreed. We need to stop letting certain people in. And of course, you guys have seen what's happened in Dearborn, Michigan. The wokes have overtaken. The liberals, of course, are trying to spread these crazy values across the world, which, by the way, nobody wants, because, of course, people in Palestine are absolutely based when it comes to the topic of the LGBTQ community. They don't like these people. Of course, when you see people out there with signs that say queers for Palestine, they laugh at that, and then they say, I hope they come over here. Why in the world would they do that? Because they view you as the devil. They view you as an absolute infidel, and they would love to get rid of you. YouTube may try to actually ad limit this particular video, but at the rate we're going, I don't think it really and truly matters, especially given the fact that next year I'm going to be completely on script and scripting out the content, which means that, by the way, they will not be able to limit the revenue on this. So why not go ahead and say what it is, especially when these videos like this where we'll just go on to Rumble, where they will actually make money there, because you're allowed to actually have some form of free speech over there, unlike YouTube. But still, at the same time, though, you got to ask the question, what's the overall end game? I think the end game is, and I want you to think to yourself as you're seeing this right here, this was the current population of the Gaza Strip, a little over 2 million. I'm not saying that 2 million people are going to be imported to the United States. I'm not saying that at all. But I would say that maybe, just maybe, seeing this administration, seeing that the overall end game is one-party rule, they don't care who they bring in. Maybe the idea was to destroy the United States from within. Maybe they couldn't do it from within, so now you got to bring in outside forces. So what do? You bring in some people who are, quite frankly, radical, people who, quite frankly, are upset right now that they've been driven from their homes, which, by the way, their leadership, quite frankly, chose to get inside of a fight with a country that, quite frankly, was much, much more superior to them, being told that they would be backed by Iran, when we all know that Iran is not going to do anything except finance the attack. They're not going to get involved anytime soon. If they do, I'd be absolutely shocked. If that was the case, don't worry, I'll be back on this topic very, very soon to apologize for my very, very bad take. But I don't see that happening. Fact of the matter is that the overall end game has been bring more and more and more of these people in to secure one-party rule. And also to go on top of this, because it's always been their goal to cause absolute chaos in this nation, because these people obviously don't think, let's let them all in, let's let them all in. I don't know if you know this or not, but Muslims coming from Gaza, coming from Syria, coming directly from Iran, Muslims who are new to the country, if they see gay pride flags, they're probably going to flip out, and they're probably going to start, well, I'm not going to say it here, but I'm pretty sure you guys know where I'm going, because the big cities of America is where they would actually be, you would have Hispanics, you would have people from the Middle East, and of course, it would be one great big giant batch of chaos. I just figured I'd go ahead and throw that out there. Of course, these people more than likely wouldn't be able to vote or anything like that. I don't think that's going to happen right away. So let's just go ahead and stop the election talk. But don't worry, it will come back up. But there could be another reason why this is, of course, happening. Very, very interesting how this type of information sometimes comes from a person who was fired from network television, who's been viewed as a bit of a crackpot, but oftentimes those crackpots have a way of saying some things that end up coming true. Funny how our pop culture sometimes just lets the truth out.
Unleashed, everybody, liberals think that Planet of the Apes, I guess, they think it's a movie about black people because they are that racist. But it was actually Rod Serling himself who wrote it, said it was a movie about the German Holocaust of Jews at the beginning of it. And so I knew that Iran deal that Obama and Jarrett had authored was to unleash Planet of the Apes in Israel. And it did. And that's exactly what happened. And the ultimate end of it that they desire is a military lockdown state. And I think they did it there to test it, to bring it here and do it here next. Because you saw all those people that were out in every major blue city that were, celebrating what happened to Jewish people. They were flying Palestinian flags and pro-Hamas. I mean, we have Hamas in our Congress. But
yeah, when you look at Ilhan Omar,
what do you mean? They have the Palestinian flag outside her office with her door closed.
Can you pull that up, Rob?
Well, the point that I was trying to make to you is like, how could this happen? How could this happen?
Well, how did it happen that we are allowing people say that a lot of the people that are coming across our border are Hamas and those kind of people? They are coming from the middle. Of course I do.
What percentage of people you think cross the border are Hamas?
I'll tell you right now, Roseanne, not to cut you off, 160 terror watch list suspects were caught at the U.S.-Mexican border in 2023. Caught. And I talked to Pat this. How many out of the 7-8 million that came over? And mind you, this administration's attitude is come in. Now this happens. You think these people, mind you, and I heard this, Roseanne, I'm pretty sure you did too, that the UN, the Biden administration, has given these 18 to 24-year-old war age fighting men, single, they're not coming over here with families. They give them cards. They give them this money thing where they're like, hey, listen, we'll keep replenishing the money. Here's a cell phone. If we need you, we're going to call you. What are they doing? So and you nailed it, Roseanne. There's two things that happen with this attack. Either A, they knew and they did nothing, or the intelligence, it was just failed again. Either way, somebody has to be held accountable.
Planet of the Apes or anything like that, but of course, Roseanne's got some very good points there. And I don't view Roseanne Barr to be some political genius or anything, but she did run for president in 2012. She didn't get very many votes, but still at the same exact time, though, it's not like the lady is completely crazy when it comes to the topic of politics. I believe what's going on is that the current administration is doing this right here so that way they can create yet another refugee crisis, the bleeding heart liberal place, so that way they can bring people from another country over here, yet they're not thinking about what it is that they're doing. The video that I'm going to be releasing on Saturday is much, much broader on the whole liberal sensibilities topic because obviously people don't have any self-awareness. We had a liberal journalist in Brooklyn get stabbed in the chest this week from somebody, and then his girlfriend turned right back around. I just now found out, set up a GoFundMe page, which, by the way, was not for the guy who died's family's funeral expenses, but for the organization they work for to recoup their lost wages. That's where we're at in this society, completely, totally soulless, living on our cell phones like crazy, and obviously Americans have been 100% asleep. What do you think happens when all these military-age males come over here and things begin to break out? People tend to get a little bit serious. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario, well, actually, I can imagine a scenario where you're running for president and you got a lot of people here that are living in the cities and they all have different ethnicities, and out of the middle of nowhere, another race war breaks out, this time not between whites and blacks, but more than likely between black, brown, and, of course, the Middle Easterns that are coming over. I just want you to sit back and think on it. It seems to me like it's a bit of an end game. The idea is obviously to destroy the United States from within, so maybe that CW phrase is 100% correct. Maybe this is actually how they plan on doing it. Maybe this is actually how they plan on getting that form of agenda across. Of course, if I talk about Bible prophecy, you're probably going to be a little bit lost on that one. But then again, though, many people have oftentimes believed that said figure that you can't really mention on this platform is not exactly what we call a Christian. He's definitely not Jewish. We're definitely not Christian. But I'm just saying that it seems to me like a situation that, quite frankly, has got trouble written all over it. It's part of what I said in the previous video yesterday. arm up. If you got more and more people coming across the border that you quite frankly can't track, some of these airports, including DFW, are extreme hotspots. Kennedy Airport's a hotspot. LaGuardia is a hotspot. Hartsfield International is a hotspot. That's in Atlanta. Miami International, that's a hotspot. What else? O'Hare, Chicago, very, very hot spot. These people are going to very, very large cities, and I suspect that they'll probably start going to the south here soon. And that right there, I think, is what the overall end game with this entire thing is. Question now is, will it work? You guys saw Roseanne Barr a while ago. Well, there was another individual who recently was on television, and no, I'm not talking about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle has to let his audience know all the time that the orange man is still very, very popular with the poor whites. Now, I can already hear people in the comment section because now YouTube has released the policies when talking about 2020, a presidential election. Of course, I'm not going to fall for that, even though you guys kind of know that I know what the hell really happened. But still, at the same time, there was still a massive rush to get the orange guy out because they all had Trump derangement syndrome. Some people wanted the lockdowns to end. They blamed him for it. So they said, the hell with it, just vote for the guy who more than likely won't win. And now we've got an old, crumpled Joe Biden in office. Regardless how you think they got him in there, that's what we got. So here's the thing. Every now and again, some figure from U.S. pop culture will find a way to let the truth out. And I came across this man a long time ago, and I wanted to do a video and a reaction to it. But I want you guys to pay very, very close attention to the very end of what happens here with Gene Simmons. Just pay very, very close attention.
You have to understand that America is physically larger than Europe. And in the same way that the UK is not one group of people, you've got the Celts and the Picts and different languages, different accents, and so on and so forth. And of course, lots of new folks from around the world coming here. So it's not one people. America, likewise. New York and LA is not Wisconsin and Nebraska.
Who's going to win the American election? Give me a name.
Donald Trump.
Wow.
So
Wow.
We can ignore all the cases, we can ignore the indictments, we can ignore the sexual assaults. We can ignore the fact he's going to potentially be
He wasn't making a
again.
judgment. He just said he thinks he's going to win.
I'm not even saying that I'm for it, but I will tell you, if I was Mr. Trump, and Mr. Biden, I think, is an ethical man, and so on, I call both Mr. Out of respect, somebody is going to run a 30-second sizzle reel showing Mr. Biden falling down.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
That's what's
Gene, we've run out of
Guys, pay attention to how quick Gene Simmons was just straight up, just cut off. Did you guys catch that? Don't worry, we'll expand on this here in a second. Watch that entire interview from Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan went out of his way, and Piers Morgan constantly does that. Believe it or not, Piers Morgan is actually on the English right. It's very, very hard to believe, but then again, though, the English right, the English socialists, of course, that's a little bit more right-leaning, is just the equivalent of a left-wing socialist here in the United States. Funny how it is that politics change. Gene Simmons is a guy who voted for Trump in 2016. He voted for Biden in 2020. He was very, very much in favor of the whole jab issue and telling people to go get poked and all that stuff. But Gene Simmons is not stupid, even though I think what he said about Biden being an ethical man, of course, was obviously false. I think he did that to avoid any drama. But still, though, at the same time, I've listened to a lot of what Gene has had to say over the years, and Gene is not exactly dumb. Paranoid, yes, the whole vax, jab, poke stuff, all that crap there. And when you see that Trump has been doing so much better in polls, it makes you honestly wonder, you're not going to be able to replace Biden with Michelle Obama because she's got to go through the balloting process and all that there. It's going to take a long time. I think the plan is to get her out there in 2028. Gavin Newsom is not electable even with all the illegals coming in. He's not electable outside of California or the deepest of the blue states, given all of his green energy policies and the fact that he's basically banned cars by 2030 in California and his extreme anti-Second Amendment stances. I don't think any one of these people get elected. I think their goal is to simply get Joe back across the line. And of course, the idea is once Joe gets across the line, replace him with Kamala, come Queenla. Don't you guys really love how they just straight up just cut Gene off there? Deploy everybody and everything. Now, guys, I'm going to leave this video with one note. Just one last note. I talked about how it is that somebody might benefit. I talked about earlier how it is that China, of course, and China, by the way, is trying to get Israel to join BRICS. Then we get to the topic of Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He announced he's running for president. He officially announced he's running for president as an independent today. He was already running on the Democratic ticket as the nominee on the Democratic side. There's been this great big controversy, and don't worry, I'll also leave this video here in the description box of who Robert F. Kennedy takes from. I argued in that video that he more than likely would take away city liberals. Well, what city liberals would he take away? Well, he more than likely would take away those who want an end to the border crisis because their neighborhoods are being flooded with people who, quite frankly, they can't communicate with. Of course, you've got a lot of people coming over who are getting benefits they probably shouldn't get. So he's obviously going to take a very, very large portion of that. He'll take a lot of white liberal voters. He'll also take the Never Trump Republicans as well. Democrats, of course, think that because he's got higher overall marks with the right and higher overall favorables with Republicans, that he may just hurt the Trumpster in the next election. I don't see that happening, especially given the fact that he's extremely well, he's not extremely pro-abortion. What I meant to say was he is extremely pro-affirmative action. He's pro-critical race theory. He's pro the climate agenda. He is anti-Second Amendment. When you actually look under the hood, as Larry Schweikert put, and I'll try to link that article in the description box as well, yeah, this guy right here appeals more to liberals, and there's a reason why it was that he was getting 20% in the Democratic primary. So it makes me wonder if this right here has always been a great big giant plan to keep the current administration in office so that way it can finish up the plan and go with Kamala Harris in 2025. Yes, I know I was able to go politics from a foreign policy incident, but then again, though, if I had rolled this up into video number 2, we'd be here for 2 whole hours. Don't worry, you guys, that video will be coming out later on this afternoon. I think that right there is the plan, but as I've always said, these right here are not exactly what we call smart, competent people. They are intentionally trying to screw up the country, screw over the American people, yet they always find a way to screw up, trying to screw up. As I've always said, they F up the F up. This is who these people are, and it more than likely will blow up in their face, and especially when it comes to the topic of RFK Jr., especially given the fact, and I know I've said especially twice, I've said especially a lot in this video, but I haven't said that word actually. But here's the thing, though. Given the fact that he mostly pulls city libs and he mostly pulls never Trumpers, and of course, if you actually look at the policy, he's got no chance in the Midwest. It seems to me like the current administration once again screwed up. And by the way, I forgot to mention this, but I'm going to go ahead and mention this now. Do you think it's possible that maybe Biden gave the $6 billion to Iran with the whole, notion of Iran not attacking Israel right away? Maybe the idea, and what I meant to say was Hamas. I mean, just figure I'd throw this out here. You think maybe he gave them $6 billion in a prisoner transfer in the hopes that maybe that Hamas would attack Israel at a later date, like 3-4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks from now? You think maybe it's possible that maybe there was another payment going over there, especially seeing how it is that a lot of American weapons are over there? Do you think maybe it's possible that maybe Biden wanted this to occur next year, being 2024? The reason why I'm asking that question is because it is very, very, very possible that Biden may have done this in the hopes that Israel would retaliate and that the United States would then get involved, and then therefore the United States would officially be in war, because wartime leadership typically tends to get reelected. I just figured I would go ahead and throw that out there. And of course, you're probably thinking to yourself, that doesn't make any sense. Iran obviously financed this. I said, yeah, they obviously financed this. But once again, the liberal establishment obviously did not think clearly. The people that we're talking about, the Palestinians, those who live in the Gaza Strip, those who attacked Israel, they obviously weren't thinking clearly, because their hatred for Israel is so great that it does not matter. They have extreme amounts of hatred, should I remind you. They're extremely emotional. Like I said before, I just want to throw it out there that maybe Biden gave the $6 billion to Iran in the hopes that maybe they might hold on to the cash and then give the money to Hamas at a later date. Now Hezbollah is getting involved. Maybe that was the plan. Get more money from the United States. Get the weapons that are obviously being sent there through Ukraine to them, because they're all U.S. weapons. I mean, think about it. Just think on it really, really quick. Is it possible that maybe this little ordeal was actually ill-timed, and because Hamas got some very, very new weapons, some very, very shiny toys, that they may have said, you know what, let's go ahead and attack Israel now? When in reality, they were probably supposed to wait till April or May of next year. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Ramadan's coming up. That means there's going to be a break here soon. I just figured I would throw that out there. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close this video down now. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. Please share the video. Post it. I would love to get you guys' thoughts. There'll be one more video out on this topic, and then we'll be going back to our normal content, and I'll see you guys later.